This is Dentist Money. Now, here's your host, Reese Harper.
Welcome to the Dentist Money Show, where we help dentists make smart financial decisions. I'm your host, Reese Harper, here with my trusty old co-host, Sir Ryan Isaac.
And we're back. It's good to be back.
Sir, I just had a recent experience on the West Coast that I thought you would find interesting.
Yeah, I think I've had a similar one. Let's hear yours.
I told you a little bit about this on my way home, but today's podcast episode...
Life-changing experience.
For our listeners you've probably experienced something like this before. The title of the podcast is yet to be determined, but I think it's going to be something in the vein of 10 things that annuities and timeshares have in common.
I think that's a good working title.
Today we're going to talk about the complex. Like you're going to listen today, and for once and for all, when you're talking to your friends about annuities, or someone calls you or emails you or asks you about an annuity, you're going to know a lot about how they work and what they're for, and why you might want them, when they make sense and when they don't. We're going to try to keep it brief and to the point.
Well, so this isn't about whether or not to buy a timeshare.
Well,
to illustrate the point, so you never forget.
What I was surprised is how much timeshares and annuities have in common. I was trying to figure out a story to tell that would actually make this relatable, and I thought, what better than to tell the story of...
So paint the picture.
I want to paint the picture for you. Yeah. I went to visit my family in Southern California, and we stayed in the Newport Coast Marriott Villas.
Shout out to Newport Coast Villas, because it's very cool there.
Great people there.
Yeah. Great resort.
Great quesadillas by the pool.
Oh.
My kids ate them
That's
all
new.
the time.
They have the big chessboard.
Yeah, you can bounce around there.
Okay.
Little wave pool. So we were staying in Unit 1210. Just want to throw that out there.
Specific.
Good unit. Little shout out to Unit 1210.
That's a good little unit.
People that were taking care of us out there. And so we get there, and I didn't know. I paid, I paid like a promotional rate to stay there for the week. Because the last time I was there, they're like, you should come back and buy a timeshare. And I'm like, yeah, I should, except I know too well.
Except I shouldn't.
This is a bad idea. So I said, but I will take your promotional rate and come back and join you. But I didn't realize that when I took the promotional rate that it involved a free gift, which is a fake way of saying
that ain't free.
It's not really free. You have to come sit through a presentation, and you get the promotional rate. So I get there. It's the first day, and I get to see this thing on my door when I walk in. It's like
little
reminder of like your appointment with the friendly folks down at the Timeshare Village is at 1 p.m. Just pop on in, and you'll have your friendly presentation with your friendly friends. And I thought, this is starting to feel a little bit scary,
little
but
forced.
It was 6 days away. I thought, I'm not going to miss it. And
you're getting a promotional rate.
Bottom line is, I forgot about my time. I forgot that I was supposed to go.
Weird.
And it's the day I'm supposed to leave. I got a flight later that afternoon, and I went and checked the fine print, and it said you'll be charged the full retail rate of your week. And I got like a 3-bedroom little nice place, and it would have been pretty pricey. I think it was like $3 or $4 grand or something.
Yeah, those would be between 3 and 4. Yeah,
and I only paid like $500 or $600. So I was
significant discount.
So I'm like, I got to figure out a way to salvage this because I missed my appointment slot. So I call them, I tell them I'm sorry. They're like, I'm sorry, sir, we don't have any availability for you today. You're not going to be able to make it in because we're booked. I'm like, well, I kind of need to sit through my dang presentation, or I'm going to get billed for this. So they said, we'll call back in an hour. Every hour we have people show up for their slots, and if someone's not there, then you can take their slot.
Oh, man.
And so I call back, 1 hour later.
It ruins the last day of vacation.
It was so
hard.
bad.
Because you could have taken a walk to the beach and gotten a little lunch.
Worst day ever. Oh. So I go down. I call at 11, and they say, oh, yeah, you can come on down. We can accommodate you. And the bottom line was, I go in there. It was one of the worst experiences of my adult vacation life. I have this like really nice timeshare professional. Call him a timeshare advisor professional.
Okay, that's good.
They had a fancy title. It was just a nice girl that was on like summer break, trying to be the friendly Q&A person at the beginning.
The hostess.
Like
getting
oh my
all
gosh,
started.
you have such a cute family. Can I see the pictures on your Instagram account of them? Because I'm really interested.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do this with you.
Yeah.
Like, I can't build a relationship.
Yeah.
I just have to
We
tell you.
know where this is headed.
We know where this is headed. I'm not here to buy a timeshare. I just want my free gift.
Yeah.
My obligatory week stay at a $3,000 discount. That is why I'm here.
So to paint the picture, these was this in like one of their units, but it was converted to an office, so it's kind of awkward.
At Marriott,
Or they have actual
they have
offices?
a whole building dedicated to sales.
Oh, okay.
It's gorgeous, you know.
Okay.
At least at this Newport Coast
Okay.
Villas. So there's like fountains and JW Marriott's first day when he opened his root beer stand.
Yeah,
and
JW.
set up his hotel back in 1492. Anyway, so there's all these pictures of
Him in Columbus discovered
it was
California
it was on the Santa Maria
They came
where
up-
he put the root beer stand that he set up his first Marriott. Little known fact: JW Marriott was actually a ship hand to Columbus crossing the ocean blue, and he lived on the starboard side of the ship.
This is the stuff history teachers don't tell
Yeah,
you.
they don't tell you this stuff.
Yeah, they don't want you to know.
Long
the
story
truth.
short, I go through this nice intro call, 15, 20 minutes with this nice gal who couldn't close, she couldn't close anything. She's way too nice. I just felt great about it. And the closer came in, zeroed in on
Who
my
you
son.
think was the closer?
Well, you thought it was the closer.
It feels like it.
For those of you who've never sat through a timeshare presentation, just know it's one of the...
There's three people.
There's the intro friendly.
It's good cop, bad cop, and
There's
then awful
the
FBI
regional
agent.
manager, and then you've got John. I'm stereotyping because it's usually someone with really long hair and a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah. Pinky rings.
Been up too late the night before, but he's got a lot of metal on his hands.
Yeah.
Just touching knuckles together every time right in front of you. It's scary.
It is. It's intimidating.
Anyway, I just say no like 100 times, and he just wouldn't stop. It's just like...
Well, they do math with inflation rates at like 25%.
They do crazy math in front of
Yeah.
you. I'm just like, not interested, so still not.
Numbers aren't
He's like,
wrong.
well, your son has a peanut allergy. He kept pressing on this fact that they'd gathered from me because my son's sitting there. He's got a peanut allergy. They're like, you can't vacation outside of timeshare because he has a peanut allergy and you'll need to bring in food from other places and have a nice kitchen. I'm like, I'm well aware of that. That's why I'm here.
I've been doing it
It's just
forever.
a lot cheaper.
It's totally easy.
I'm not staying at your resort. I'm just staying at your resort at a less expensive rate than you want me to stay at your resort at. Okay? And so, anyway, long story short
Wow,
is
the peanut allergy.
just pressure on the peanut allergy. They're pushing hard on trying to make that pain point be the close item. It was a frustrating moment. And I ended up, the moment that I remember the most there is at the end, and I'm looking at the regional closer. I'm not going to throw him under the bus.
He's doing his job.
But he says, we don't pressure anyone here at Marriott.
Yeah.
We don't pressure anyone.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, can I go then? And he said, I just can't believe that you're walking away from this. I said, it seems like you're still pressuring me. I want to just leave now. He's like, well, we don't pressure anyone here. That's not our policy. We don't pressure anyone. And he just wouldn't let up, right? And so we end up leaving, really awkward. He pushes over like the chair, kind of walking out of the room, just mad, kind of that he wasted 30 minutes trying to close me and I wouldn't buy. And we start walking up the stairs to get our free gift. And, so the free gift.
So cheap, dude.
So the free gift is nice again.
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to sit down and do a customer service satisfaction interview with you and find out if you felt uncomfortable at all during the presentation. I'm like, my son's in tears and my wife
She left.
is just already left and she won't even be here to receive the free gift. So, I'm going to have to give this a 0 out of 10 on the score.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to note that down in our material. I really appreciate you being transparent with us, letting us know. I'm like,
There's a process there.
if you pay these people like, zero money, unless I buy, there's going to be a slight difference in the culture.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Kinda.
honest with you. You might want to think about maybe doing a salary-based program or...
They took that to heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're changing right now.
So I gave him some suggestions, didn't really work out. I think the reason we're telling you the story is because there's a lot of products in financial services that are very similar to how
They're delivered the same way.
They're delivered the same way. People are compensated the same way. The level of expertise and training is very similar.
They wear Hawaiian shirts.
They do wear Hawaiian shirts.
That is actually true.
They may be asking you to come to Golden Corral for a free meal.
Is that a regional place? Is that local? People not know what the Golden Corral is. Is that national?
You know that there's a buffet in your neighborhood. Think about the biggest buffet that's there. That is the
and it's like $5.
It's like $5 for all you can eat. Something.
It's probably
like that.
more expensive than that.
Lot of financial advisors around the U.S. I know many of you listening to this would be like, I would never do that, but that's very common in the financial services industry for people to get people to come to a big restaurant and sell them food and sell them a high pressure product, maybe a secondary meeting at least.
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about today is 10 reasons that the timeshare experience is just like the way an annuity works. And annuities are one of the number one products that you will see on state securities websites, kind of cautionary list of things to not do with your money.
Yeah, state securities agencies, SEC, they'll put out lists, usually annually, sometimes every few years, about like the top 10 most common scams, or not just scams, but things to be cautious of.
Yeah.
Get second opinions, do your homework. Yeah. Annuities are always on that list.
So for those of you who don't know, an annuity is an investment. Think about it like a type of account. It's just a type of an account that you can put money in that is specific to accumulating money for retirement. It allows you to put money in, and there's a lot of features that make it attractive at the outset for people. One of them is that the interest and dividends that are paid inside of the account, or the growth that it experiences, is deferred from taxation. I mean, you don't have to pay tax year after year. So if you wanted to save money inside of an annuity as opposed to a regular investment account, there's a tax shelter basically inside of this account. Yeah. It's kind of like an IRA.
Yeah, just like one.
Just that you can't touch till you're 59, and it has that feature that people find attractive. Sometimes inside of these accounts, there's also special bells and whistles that differentiate them one from another. They're one of the most expensive investment products in the United States, and they cost the most money of almost anything you can put your money into when you compare different types of retirement savings vehicles. So compared to like a traditional 401k or an IRA or a simple IRA, they're a lot more expensive, but they come with some bells and whistles that are really attractive for some people.
So another feature of what an annuity is, it's through an insurance company, product through an insurance company, where the main feature or benefit that's usually being sold is the guarantee of income, right? That's what the word annuity means. It means you give up a sum of money for a guaranteed amount of income that lasts for a specified period of time. So the attraction with annuities is that the guarantees that are in place, guaranteed payouts. A lot of times they have minimum or floors that your account can't drop. Like you can't lose money beyond a certain point. So those are some like the main features that people are most interested in with annuities.
Yeah, when we say annuity, we're talking about just like Ryan said, the word is just converting a lump sum of money
into a payment,
a stream of payments.
Yeah.
And that's usually what an annuity means. And in a lot of cases, in like sometimes in divorce settlements, or sometimes in the case of different types of lawsuits, you'll get an annuity instead of a lump sum of money. That's just a series of payments over time instead of getting a lump sum.
Yeah, it can happen with life insurance settlements. It can happen with pension plans out of companies. So
you work for a state or local school district, sometimes you'll get an annuity as opposed to a lump sum of money.
Which doesn't always, it's an interesting point. It doesn't always refer to an insurance contract. It's just, that's the method of payment for the benefit.
Yep. So tell us about item number one, Ryan, that timeshares and annuities have in common.
Number one is they're hard to figure out what you actually own and how to use it. So let's talk about the different types of annuities that you can buy, why it is kind of hard.
Yeah. Well, you have different types of annuities, just like you have different types of timeshares, and they're really complicated to figure out. Most people don't understand what they actually own. You have fixed annuities that are kind of offering you a guaranteed minimum rate of return over a certain period of time, kind of like a CD or a short-term bond portfolio. Mm-hmm. So basically a fixed annuity is just a conservative way to accumulate money. An indexed annuity offers you a rate of return that is kind of that is tied to like a benchmark, like the S&P 500 or some kind of investment vehicle. And those indexed annuities promise to give you the benefits of a fixed annuity contract, but the upside of one that could be invested in the market.
It could grow a little bit.
And then you have the opposite side of fixed, which is variable annuities, where you can put your money inside of different sub-accounts or different mutual funds that allow you to target certain types of investments that might grow a lot. And so this is kind of the mixture between the two. You can have this fixed, you can have this variable, or you can have a blend, which is that indexed annuity.
Yeah, it's probably good to mention too. You also can have qualified and non-qualified annuities. So qualified annuities, like when you have an IRA account, this is really common actually. We have an existing IRA account and you move that inside of an annuity, which gets warned about a lot because it's redundant. You know, the tax deferral in an IRA doesn't improve or get any better by moving it inside of an annuity, but it happens really frequently. It happens all the time.
A lot of brokers, since they get paid a lot to sell these, will move people's monies from an IRA or a 401k into the annuity. Mm-hmm. And there's big incentives for them to do that, but that is not that's not good advice under almost all circumstances that I can think of.
Yeah. So you have these different types based on the investment, the payout. You have IRA types and non-IRA types. Then there's stipulations inside the annuities on how your money can grow, how far it can go down, which is usually the benefit of these things. Like there's like a floor, how much it can grow.
Yeah, let's talk about the things that happen inside of the accounts. How will your money grow? Well, if you're inside of a fixed annuity has a stated interest rate and kind of a guaranteed minimum amount.
And those are usually the lower payout ones because it is fixed. I mean, it's
similar to if you were to give your money to a bank or like we've talked about a bond in the past where you can kind of get a guaranteed fixed rate of return. Mm-hmm. It's very similar in a fixed annuity. You're just getting the insurance company to state a fixed rate of return to you, and you're able to keep your money inside.
Willing to give. Yep.
Mm-hmm. What about a performance floor? What does that usually mean?
Yep. So this is kind of like one of the big features of an annuity, which is the minimum amount your account can lose. So if you're in one of a variable product, so if you're in one of a variable annuity where you can pick all kinds of different investments, or the indexed annuity, the indexes that they're tied to, or the sub accounts, the investments that you put in the variable ones, they can, just like any investment, they can go negative, right? And so the performance floor of an annuity just guarantees that it won't, if the index goes down 10%, your floor might go to zero. Like you can't go below zero in your account balance.
Yeah, so
rate of return, I mean.
So I think it's important to just specify that between fixed annuities and indexed annuities and variable annuities, these three types that we talked about, a performance floor usually only applies to an indexed annuity or a variable annuity. Yeah. With these latter two types, you're going to see performance floors, you'll see performance caps, and you'll see what are called participation rates. Floors, like Ryan said, provide that kind of downside protection. Caps set an annual maximum, so you can't make more than a certain amount.
Yeah, that part gets overlooked a lot, though.
Yeah,
the floor is the main feature because a lot of times these get sold preying on a little bit of maybe fear or misconceptions about markets or investments. People are afraid to lose money, but the cap plays a huge role in how your money will grow. And it's interesting. We were looking at a study over the weekend about. If you removed the floor and the caps, what kind of performance you have, basically, if you just had a normal investment account versus if you had a floor, which sounds nice, but then a cap with it. I mean, you miss out on a lot of those big years in exchange for having the safety of the floor. And the performance is very, very different from what you'd get in an outside investment account.
Yeah, so what Ryan's saying is imagine a big wavy line going up and down. A big wave that goes up and down through this line that goes right through the center. You've probably all seen an audio wave like that, right? Imagine if you took off the top and you took off the bottom and you just kind of kept all the stuff right in the middle. That's kind of what the intention of an annuity is trying to do. It's just trying to make the ride be a lot more smooth. What ends up happening, though, is all of these returns are still based on, if you listen to any of our prior podcasts, you understand that good returns in a market don't happen every year. They only happen once every 3 to 4 years, or sometimes every 5 to 7 years, you'll have a big year. And if in those big years, the insurance company caps your return, you're not able to get as a high of an average over 5 to 7 years as you would if they didn't cap the returns.
Well, what's important about that is a lot of times these caps are around the 10% mark, which on the outset, this sounds like, well, that's fine.
I'd love to get 10%.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll get 8 or 9 or 10%. You can cap me there. That's fine. What people don't realize is what you just said is the average return of 8 or 9 or 10% doesn't happen because it goes perfectly 10% every year. It's because some years you'll get 25 or 30 or 35% in exchange for years that go down. But when you miss out on that, you're not getting like a 10% average. I mean, it's a lot lower than that.
What Ryan's saying is every 5 to 7 years, if that one big year your return gets capped, what it does is just makes your average return be a lot
way lower. Oh, yeah.
And so what we typically see, if you see a lot of independent academic studies around this, indexed annuities typically perform much poorer than people would expect, given the way they're described up front. If you tell me you're never going to lose money because it's going to be a zero floor,
but you have the upside,
but you have the upside of up to 10%,
yeah,
you could make, and you're always going to make between 0 and 10. Well, that feels really good on the outset, except when you realize that what that means is you kind of locked yourself into like a 3% annual return because you capped your upside and you took away all the downside. I'm kind of exaggerating. You'd see some index annuities that might do better than that, depending on the time period, and some will do way worse. The principle is don't get caught up in this because you pay a lot of fees in order to have these floors and caps. There's also one thing to kind of think about that I didn't get to say, which is a participation rate on the index. So even though they say they'll cap your return at 10% a year, sometimes they don't give you the full return that the index offered you. So they might say, instead of getting that 10% cap, we're only going to give you 80% of that 10%.
Yeah.
It's called a participation rate index. And they create this index internally to the annuity product, and it just doesn't give you the full upside of what's promised. So those are they're just tricky things to think about. We don't want to get too down in the weeds on these because they're pretty heavy. But I think it's important for people to know that these three things, you don't get what you think you're going to get out of them.
Well, and I mean, logically, these are very, very profitable businesses and companies. I mean, they know what they're doing mathematically, and when they do the underwriting, when they set all these caps and minimums and participation rates, I mean, they're not going to like overpay someone and guarantee that they'll never lose money.
Yep. So while it sounds good, I just think you got to realize, you got to know what you're paying for, and we'll get to that in just a second. There's a lot of warnings all over the securities board websites. You can go to the FINRA website or the SEC website. I think it's FINRA.gov and SEC.gov. And then there's the North American Securities Administration Association, formerly called the NASD. I think it was North American Securities Dealers. Their websites will show, these are the top 10 schemes and scandals. There's just a lot of annuity products get a lot of attention in state markets. So what's the second thing, Ryan, that we go through when we're looking at annuities that have a lot to do with timeshares?
Yeah, they usually end up costing more than you thought they would.
So up front, they cost a lot more than you ever realized. Yeah. I think we see that with timeshares. We see that with annuities. Tell me about a couple of things inside of an annuity that are expensive. Let's just talk about the types of fees that are inside of these.
Yeah, so we'll start with the probably the biggest one. It's called the M&E expense, or mortality and expense. This is just basically the cost of paying for the benefits and a few other small costs. The industry average of the M&E charge is 1.25% annually, but they can go up close to 2%.
So this 1.25 to 2% per year is part of the fees you're going to pay to have those floors and those caps, right?
Yep.
Okay. There's also administration fees, riders, administrative fees and riders. Between these two, I think those can add up to be well over another percent to percent
easily.
and a half a year.
Yeah. The administration fee, I think the industry average is 0.25%. So it's another quarter.
Yeah.
Just for that's to mail you stuff, and it's just communication.
Keep track of your money, do the accounting on it, send out statements.
Now, riders, these can vary a ton. You mentioned these before. You can add a lot of things onto an annuity. You can add more features and bells and whistles and things like life insurance, death benefits, and beneficiary add-ons. Pass this thing to someone if you die.
Long-term care insurance comes with it. You got some disability benefits occasionally.
Yeah, and these things range from 0.25% to over 1% a year per rider.
Yeah.
So
you also have some riders. There's riders for buybacks where some annuities. Some annuities will make you pay money in order to guarantee that your contract never changes.
Yeah,
and then some annuities can completely...
They'll come back and ask for their stuff back.
They can come back and ask for benefits that they promised you.
It's actually it's been in the news for years now. My own grandma has an annuity where I'll look at her mail and she'll ask me these questions, and they send her these letters asking for their benefits back. Basically, they overpromised payouts that were too big. They couldn't themselves with their own investment models and returns keep up with the payouts. So they write letters and say, hey, give us this one benefit back. We'll increase your benefit base, or we'll allow you to pull out some money or something. But it's never a good enough exchange. They want that back because you're getting a better deal than they want you to have.
Yeah. So that's why if you do have an annuity that the annuity company is telling you they want to make changes to a bunch, probably a good sign that maybe you've got something that is decent.
Yeah, keep it.
Maybe they screwed up.
But this isn't advice, but usually they want something that's.
Our point too on this is that it's not always a good idea to get rid of one you have. It's just usually a good idea to avoid them in the first place. And so I think that's just something to think about.
Okay. Another kind of fee is you pay fees on the underlying investments that you put in your account. These apply more to indexed and especially variable annuities. So those investments that you can choose inside of the annuity, they carry fees as well. Usually, all the ones I've ever seen for clients have always been over 1%. And they're always like 1.3 to 1.5%.
Yeah.
And the choices that you have, and this is another complaint people have, there's like 5 options.
Yeah.
You pick between one of these 5 really crappy funds that cost 1.5% in a year. And
in fairness, some of these are getting better. And you're seeing annuity companies feel pressure to offer more options, bring down the prices of funds. But what Ryan's saying is still true, that they'll typically not, if you go to Costco and you buy a case of eggs, you're getting that at a wholesale price. If you go to an annuity and you buy a mutual fund, let's say you want this particular investment, you want a United States stock index, you'll find that it's kind of like going to Costco and then saying, here's the price, but just because it's at Costco now, it's 3 times as expensive, and they show it to you. Imagine if you went into Costco, you go to the eggs section, they're like, eggs cost $2 a dozen, but since you're buying it from us, it's at $6.
Since you're putting it in that type of a shopping cart.
Since it's going to go in this shopping cart at $6.
Now it's $6.
You have to pay it.
Yeah, sorry. It is $2 outside that shopping cart, but now it's $6 inside of yours.
Inside of your cart. And so you just know that you're getting the same investments inside or outside. If you set up an IRA and bought that same investment and bought it at wholesale, it might be a third of the cost. So they typically have a lot of markup on their investment fees. There's what are called 12B1 fees that help make those investments more expensive, because the annuity company or the insurance company that has the annuity is paying money the fund inside of the annuity is paying the insurance company to feature it. So if I'm a mutual fund and I want to be in someone's annuity, let's say I'm, mutual fund XYZ and I want to be in John Hancock's new annuity, I might pay them
the Harper Fund
0.25% a year to feature me in their annuity. That's called the 12B1 fee, and those still exist, and many of you are paying those inside of your annuity. So it's just you can get the sense from all these fees.
We're not done yet either.
We're not even close to done. It's just hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And so talk about surrender fees.
Okay, this is one of the bigger ones. Surrender fee or surrender period, surrender charge. This just means that if you want your money back before a certain period of time is done, it can range from anywhere from 3 to 15 years in some cases, there will be a percentage charge. So take, for example, a 10-year surrender charge. Normally what will happen is they'll say year 1, or year 0.0 to year 1, if you want your money back, we're going to charge you 10% on top of everything. Just take it back. So you pay a fee of 10%, you get 90% back out.
Yep.
Year 2, it's 9%. Year 3, it's 8%, and it goes down to 0 after 10
So why
years.
do they have 10% in that first year?
Is because that's about how much they pay the agent to sell the policy up front anyway.
So the annuity broker, the guy that sold it to you, probably got paid.
Not quite 10. That's a little, but
he probably got paid whatever your surrender charge is.
Oh yeah.
So whatever your surrender charge is, whatever you have to pay to get out of it,
probably what the commission was.
Is probably what you pay.
I mean, you and I get emails on this and phone calls every week about the latest annuity with an 8 and 9% commission. You know, here's a new 8 and 9%.
Yeah, right. Our firm at Dennis Advisors, we're what's called a fee-only fiduciary, so we don't get paid commissions to sell annuities, but we get marketed to by annuity companies all over the country that want us to promote their product in our email accounts, almost like on a weekly basis for sure. And on our voicemails, we'll get voice messages saying, look, if you sell this many this year, we're sending everyone to Cabo, or we have a new bonus available at 8% if you do 7 annuities with us.
Yeah.
They're really aggressive at marketing to getting people to sell these.
So here's the thing to think about too, and I've run into this lately with a few clients where this has been a surprise. If you have an annuity, now let's make a distinction too. There's in your annuity, you can have it where it's not annuitized yet, meaning you're not taking payments from the annuity yet. You could go back and get your money back. That's called a deferred annuity. You haven't started taking payments yet.
Yep. So we're talking about types of annuities here. You can do one where immediately the payout starts, or one where you park the money somewhere, let it grow for a bit, and then maybe start getting payments.
Then taking payments. When people have those deferred kind where they haven't started taking payments yet and they're still adding money to the annuity, something to remember about these surrender periods is they start over with every new payment. So if you put in 10 grand one year, your 10-year surrender period starts that year. If you put it 10 grand the next year, you get a new 10-year period on that $10,000 piece. So this has been a surprise to some people that have had annuities inside of retirement plans where monthly contributions are being sent in, or just deferred annuities where people are sending in their savings monthly. And they didn't know that there's a new surrender period starting with every new, not the whole account, but with every new payment has its own surrender period.
Yep.
Kind of a pain.
Totally. So, I mean, there's also financial advisor fees on top of that. So this is before the person's got any kind of trail. They get this upfront commission, and a lot of times after that, they get a trail commission ongoing on an ongoing basis. And that can range, that can be a really broad range.
So all in, you're probably on an typical annuity. Now there are some good ones. I mean, we could get to this. There's a few companies that have some decent
let's talk
products.
about the worst option.
Yeah,
the worst option might look like
you're gonna be in the 3 to 4% range every year, maybe a little bit more, not including the surrender fees if you want out of it.
Yeah, so every year, if you've got $100,000 sitting there, you could be paying between $3,000 and $4,000 a year just in fees to have it sitting there, and your money would have to grow a lot for it to outpace just those fees. I mean, if you think about just put $100,000 in an IRA, it's a very different scenario to put money inside of an IRA where none of these fees apply, none of these same benefits and features are promised. It's just more of a wholesale version of an investment. And if you put it inside of annuity, you get all of these features, but they come at a really high cost. And they're usually so complex that most people don't know what they're paying for, which was kind of our second kind of timeshare correlation there.
Yeah.
So our third one that we wanted to talk about, when you want to use the annuity or the timeshare, there's always some reason that you can't, right? And
it's hard.
And it's hard to use it. You got to pick the right week, or you've got to schedule the right time. And with an annuity, it's just there's always complications, whether it's I have to wait till I'm 59 and a half, or I have to wait for my surrender period to be up, or the monies that I put in, they started my new surrender period, or I'm missing out on some bonus if I do anything with it right now.
Yeah, that one's, I was just talk about that one for a second. That one's kind of common where, let's say if I take my annuity at 55, I can start getting a 5% payout. But if I wait till 63, it's kind of like Social Security. I can get a 5.5%. And if I wait till 70, I can get a 6% payout. So you're kind of like should I wait? Should I not do it?
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why it's always just kind of complicated.
Taxation is different. Yeah, taxation is ordinary income, where if that money had been growing inside of a brokerage account, for example, you would have paid capital gains taxes on your growth. Annuities, you're going to pull the money out and pay ordinary income tax.
What's our fourth item?
Number 4 is harking back to your story. They're always sold in high pressure situations. And I was talking to a client this week actually that he got pitched an annuity, but the way he said it was he didn't make time for this person. They didn't schedule anything. He said he was caught up front one day after multiple attempts, and the guy caught him up front in the office, and he had to listen to the pitch. So then he ran some stuff past me. But
so someone literally walked into his office soliciting his business?
This was like the third or fourth time.
Man.
Trying to find him, but he said he was caught up front. So it's kind of like indicative of how these things are. No one wakes up and is like, I really want to buy an annuity today. You have to get caught up front.
You ever been caught by that person where they're chasing you down and your phone,
you were up front grabbing a record,
accidentally walked out front.
Shouldn't have been up there. Change your clothes before you go up front.
Item number 5, right? The subject that they have in common is you end up feeling depressed about owning them at some point. I think most annuity owners, I've never met an annuity owner. There's going to be one of you out there that's going to comment on this podcast.
Let us know. Yeah, let us know. I'd love to hear. Yeah, that you'd still love it. That'd be great, actually.
I want to hear that you love it and you would never change a thing. Because I just have met like 9 out of 10 people like loathe it. And then one person's like, at least he was my brother-in-law.
Just keep it there.
At least I helped him out, helped him get him off the ground. He really needed some business. Number 6, somehow, I would say this. The number 6, the difference or the number 6 similarity between timeshares and annuities is
they somehow keep getting people to show up for the free gift.
Yeah. Somehow they keep getting people to show up for the free gift.
And sit through the presentation.
And sit through their...
A lot of this has to do with a little trickery, okay? You got to get caught up front in your office. You got to kind of get tricked or schemed into sitting down. A lot of times we'll hear our clients will say, hey, I sat through this meeting and here's what was pitched, but the subject of the meeting on the outset when they presented it was like really pretty different,
Yes.
Like it'll be like, we're going to talk about your health insurance benefits and a few other things that your corporation can do for your employees. And, some owners think, oh, that's kind of cool. I'd like to learn a little bit about the benefits I can provide for my employees.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 minutes on that and 90 minutes on annuities.
The 7th item is they're usually targeted to very specific groups of people.
Yeah.
And most often than not, they appeal to people that are in the later stages of their working life.
Yeah,
elderly, retired, 60s, late 50s, starting to think about retirement. And somehow there's this magic retirement account that you've never heard of. It's got all these bells and whistles. They position it like everyone else is an idiot. They don't know about these. And you just found out.
The little thing no one wants you to know about.
Yeah. It's just, and it usually ends up attracting people that have like lump sums of money to put in these, or
it's good commissions.
And they're worried about investments. Yeah. They don't have a lot of knowledge, honestly. Like a lot of the financial knowledge that these people that fall prey to some of these. I mean, we're bringing this up because most people really get hosed when they're putting their money inside of annuities. It's not, they usually don't pick a good annuity with a good contract with good terms. And I'll talk about alternatives to some of these bad options here in a minute.
Well, I was just going to say that the elderly, I think the SEC calls it elderly financial abuse or something like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest warnings that they have is unfortunately just gets sold to older people that are really worried. They're finally in retirement. They're done working and they have a lot of fear and concern and anxiety about their money lasting.
Yeah.
Which is, that's one of the big sales pitches too. And so,
yep. So one thing to be aware of is not all annuities are the worst thing ever. We're making these, we're just trying to like warn you. Like if anyone says annuity, your first reaction should be
second opinion.
I don't think that's going to be good for me. That should be your first reaction. And then it's okay to learn a little bit more from there, but just react poorly. Okay.
And strongly.
If someone's leading with that, something's wrong. Like Ryan and I are in this fee-only fiduciary world, which is like one of the most highly regulated. We don't sell products for commissions. We can't get paid on commissions, but there are a lot of annuities that are built to appeal to people like Ryan and I, because these annuity companies don't want to lose a big segment of the market. Mm-hmm. So they create very low cost,
no commission,
no stripped down, no load, no surrender fee products. And some of them are pretty good. I mean, and it's a compelling option for certain high income people with really good cash flows.
For a segment of their portfolio.
For a small segment of their portfolio. Mm-hmm. For example, let's say an annuity costs 0.4% more than a straight IRA or 401k. Let's say that was really the cost difference. And in some cases, some of these no-fee products are starting to approach that. Mm-hmm. If you put your money, instead of putting it in an investment account, a brokerage account after tax, right, and just saving it, because you max out your 401k and your retirement accounts, and you've got a little extra money to save, you got a choice. You can put it in a regular investment account, or you can put it in one of these lower cost annuities. Some of the advantages to that might be that you won't have to pay taxes every year on the interest and the capital gains and the growth, but it better have great investments inside of it that you could have at the same cost or similar cost
that you could buy outside.
We could have bought outside, and you should use it for types of your investments that are going to be in your portfolio that pay out a lot of interest and dividends, because this annuity will shield those things from taxes. And so if you wanted to have a lot of a really conservative investment in your portfolio, and you were going to hold it in your regular taxable investment account, and you decided that this annuity that you found that was really inexpensive, some of the good options out there that I've seen recently, there's one from TIAA-CREF. They have an after-tax, no-load, no-commission annuity that's not super expensive. Instead of putting your bonds inside of your after-tax account, you could put some inside of an annuity. In my own personal experience, though, this still tends to be slightly more expensive,
a little more complex,
and a little more complex, because now I've tied my money up for sure till I'm 59, and I've also created a situation where I have to pay ordinary income taxes on the back end. When you pull money out of an annuity, it's not capital gains, it's ordinary income, and that's a higher tax rate than it would be if you just kept it inside of a brokerage account. So even though the fees might be really conservative and really reasonable, we've found in our experience that they're still not quite as compelling for most people. But I do have clients who have annuities, and it usually boils down to someone who's so conservative and they're so worried about the future that they really just want to have these guarantees, or a really, even in a low cost annuity, there are options to get investments that have annual guaranteed returns or very predictable annual returns. And that's just sometimes gives people more closure than the idea of owning bonds, because they like the idea that an insurance company can maybe provide them with that level of certainty, absolute certainty, where a bond is pretty conservative. And if you own a bond mutual fund, I would argue that in most cases, it's more diversified and maybe even more conservative than what you'll find inside of an annuity.
But it's still an investment that carries the risk of loss.
But it's still an investment that carries a risk of loss, and some people don't want that. And so they're not bad. It's just you got to get your fees stripped down to the point to where they're. I mean, you can't be paying multiple percentage points a year in annuity fees and have it even come close to where it should be for what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just my pitch for maybe a balanced approach to this. I don't think that they're all bad, but you're talking about 5 to 8% of the annuity market has products that are actually geared in a lower cost way to solve some of these problems. And then the bulk of the market is still honestly preying on people that don't know what they're doing and paying financial advisors high commissions to promote these products.
Well, and the problem is how often, if you own an annuity, or we see this too, how often does the annuity get changed to a different annuity?
Yeah.
It resets the surrender period, but it pays the person again.
You mean a broker comes and tells you that the one you own is not good enough,
but there's a better one,
and change to a new one?
Now that does, I mean, it is true.
That's called churning, and we see it a lot.
Yep. So new product comes out, different bells and whistles, changes it again, gets paid again.
that's all I wanted to say about the new products. Did you want to say anything about
I was just going to say, if you're listening to this, and I don't know what advice, Reese, you would want to give people listening to this. I would say if you're listening and you have an annuity or you're thinking about buying one, but you're concerned or you're worried or you fall into this category, you can relate to this, and you're maybe concerned that it's not the best thing for you right now, and what are your options? Give us a call. So you can call us anytime, 833-DDS-PLAN. You can go to our website and book an appointment with us, and we can chat about it. And you just go to dentistadvisors.com. At the top of the website, there's a link you can get on our calendar, and let's talk about your annuity and what options you might have, because there's a few ways that you can make them better. You can improve at least the investment selection.
You can cut some of the costs out of them.
Cut some costs. You can bleed them out slowly. Even if there's surrender charges, you can take a little bit out every year without a penalty and get the money out of there. You can get rid of them completely. You can transfer them to better annuities. You have options. So give us a call at 833-DDS-PLAN, and we'll chat about what options are maybe best for you. So
we're going to hit these last three as we part ways here that I think are kind of our last timeshare annuity comparisons.
These are the closers.
And number 8, you thought this would be a great thing to pass along to the kids. And then you realize that you're passing a bill along to the kids, the timeshare that they had to keep paying for their annual dues. And
hey kids, you get my timeshare.
Hey kids, you get my timeshare, but make sure
$10,000 a year.
Keep shelling out
fees.
this money for your maintenance dues. And the second thing is annuities tend to be a little bit more expensive way for kids to inherit money as well. Mm-hmm. And so that number 9 reasons that annuities and timeshares have in common is what?
You know someone who has one.
You know someone who has one.
Everyone knows someone who's got one.
Yeah, and that everyone knows.
Use them for that benefit.
Use them for that benefit, or that's the reason.
I don't know how you use a friend for their annuity though.
You get they get you into it usually because they have one.
Okay.
Number 10.
Last but not least.
The last but not least item. I think this is probably my favorite. You don't like to talk about it because you probably got a bad deal.
Just don't bring it up after a while.
You don't bring it back up.
Yeah, just don't say anything.
Annuities are one of the more complicated things you're going to have to navigate throughout your retirement. If you are the type of person that's doing this without a financial advisor, it's almost impossible to understand the bells and whistles of each contract and make good comparisons. So if you're doing your own financial planning, I'll just say stay a long way away from annuities. They do have a place in certain personality types, depending on how much risk and stress people want to have. In some cases, if people have limited means and they have a really, really high amount of income that they need, and they're just going to run out of money anyway.
Yeah, they need to squeeze a high withdrawal rate out of a small account balance. Yeah.
You've got to get a lot of money. Like you've got to take 7 or 8 or 9% out of your account every year. Man, you can't hardly invest that money anyway. So sometimes an annuity can make sense for certain types of people. It's just kind of a bummer because the people who probably shouldn't have them are the people who are the ones that end up getting targeted the most. Yeah. And I'm giving people just a warn. I guess I want people to know that they should be cautious about these and make sure that they're not trying to look at annuities as a way to get ahead, as a way to invest in a better investment vehicle,
get a better return
than they could get from the straight IRA, 401k, or after-tax account with low-cost investments. And I do think that if people can just get second opinions constantly before they make any changes to their annuities or before they ever buy one in the first place, they're going to be a lot better off than kind of going through it blind and just trusting the salesperson that they're talking to.
Okay. Well, thanks for your thoughts. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Appreciate you listening. If you have questions, again, you can reach us anytime by calling us at 833-DDS-PLAN. You can go to our website, dentistadvisors.com. At the top of the page, there's a little link where you can schedule on our calendar. We can talk about your annuity. We can talk about the options you have or any other questions you'd like to discuss with us. And thanks a bunch. Talk to you later.
Carry on.